Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on my channel where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And this video is about people-pleasing, self-trust and self-connection, right, after narcissistic abuse. I did make a post on the community tab, right, and saying like any questions, any comments, anything you'd like me to talk about, post it there. And this was one of those that came up. Someone was saying about struggling with self-trust, basically. So people pleasing, yeah, not feeling a sense that we can trust ourselves, not feeling connected to ourselves, they're all basically caused by the fact that we've learned to self-abandon, right? People pleasing is kind of haloed in our society. We've heard things like, oh, you know, I can't help it. I'm so nice. I'm just a people pleaser. But trust me, people pleasing is extremely destructive, not just to ourselves, but to our relationships. Why? Because it's still a form of manipulation. Yeah, you're not being yourself, and you're trying to. Now, it's a survival mechanism, and for most of us that have been narcissistically abused, it's also coming from the trauma response of fawn. Right, we're fawning people. We're doing things to make them like us because we don't feel safe enough to be ourselves in relationship. It's still toxic. And it's a form of manipulation, because even if you get someone to like you because you're people pleasing, right, they're not going to like the real you because you're not being true to who you are and what you want and need, right? It's a trauma response as well, because we've been taught that because we've been walking on eggshells with toxic people, we've been taught to pander to them, you know, get them desperately to like us and validate us, to try and keep the peace, to try and feel safe. It's a trauma response and we need to heal it, right? Lack of self-trust is, again, because we've been taught to self-abandon to survive in narcissistically abusive relationships, especially if they came from your family of origin, right? Or romantic partners. Like, we don't trust ourselves, of course not, because we've got a very bad relationship with ourselves at this point. We've betrayed ourselves over and over again because we did what we thought we needed to survive on a very core level, right? So it's not our fault, but it is a very serious thing, because when we don't trust ourselves to follow our dreams, trust our intuition, create a better life, and we live in anxiety a lot of the time. And self-connection is all the same thing, you know, feeling disassociated, not feeling connected to self. It's because we've been trained to self-abandon, right? And we don't have a good relationship with ourselves or a strong identity of our own. Because remember, in the narcissistic abusive relationship, you are molded into what the narcissist needs you to be, right? And they disconnect you on purpose from yourself. Yeah? But these are very dangerous things over time for us to keep living in, and they will result in emotional distress, anxiety. Most of the time autoimmune disorders come from this, food sensitivities, intolerances. It's not actually healthy for our body or our soul to live like this, right? So there's a couple of things, right? One of the core pillars in my program Sovereign is about self-focusing and self-partnership. It's about coming back into our bodies, right? And being aware of how we feel and backing ourselves, right? Not judging ourselves on terms of, am I right to feel this way? Is it because of my trauma? The first step is actually coming home and honouring how you feel. Because so many of us have bypassed that and jumped into therapy and trying to fix our feelings, rather than first of all starting with, how do I feel, and honouring it. So in Sovereign, I give examples of, for example, there was times when I just hated being in grocery stores. I couldn't do it. I'd get anxiety. And I gave myself permission in the end. I was just like, I will not abandon myself in my life anymore. And before you're ready to fix yourself, before you're ready to really deeply look at why you're feeling how you feel, you need to honour yourself first. This is how we start a relationship with ourselves. This is what I teach, right? And then you can look at why you feel it, where it came from, and actually changing your belief systems and reactions to things. But first of all, we have to stop self-abandoning. This is how you dissolve this, right? So I used to just leave the grocery store when it got too much. I would take my stuff back and I wouldn't stay there. I gave myself permission. I stopped beating myself up. I stopped saying you shouldn't be so anxious and this is pathetic and blah, blah, blah. I had my back in small ways, right? When things got too much, I listened to Ellie. I stopped trying to fix her. I stopped trying to talk her out of her feelings. I just self-focused. How do I feel? I came back into my body. Most of us are disassociated with our bodies, right? We're not fully present in our bodies. I'll give you some tips for that. And I just partnered with myself. Before you fix yourself, you've got to honour yourself and self-partner and self-focus. Tips for coming into your body, right? So for a lot of us, when we've had a lot of trauma, we don't feel safe in our bodies. You may have had experiences where you felt like you kind of left your body because we kind of disconnect, because we can't take it. It's just too much for us to process. So slowly coming back into your body, things you can do is, one of the things I teach is just, in any given moment, you could be doing anything. You just think, well, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I touch? What can I taste? You know, just coming into physical. If you're having a glass of water or a cup of tea, just like slow the process down and bring your awareness to it. Things like, you know, just imagine, like feel the drink going down your throat and into your stomach. This brings you into your body, right? And for most of us, through these cycles, we're disassociated. So the other things I teach are around, and I'll do some more videos on, I think, because I had the idea to do that anyway, our identity after this, because our identity is crushed. We don't know who we are anymore. We've become who everyone needs us to be, and we are not ourselves. So there's a whole spiritual awakening in actually claiming our identity again, but it starts with self-partnering and self-focusing, not self-fixing, actually. You're not ready to fix until you have a relationship with yourself where you allow yourself to be yourself. I've taught authenticity and authentic power for years, right? And my definition of authenticity is being true to who you are and what you want and need. And in these cycles, we have been talked out of, or bullied out of, or scared out of our wants and needs, right? And that means that we will automatically put our needs last. In fact, we don't even see them as needs. We see them as inconveniences, things that we need, like you might need a break, you might need some space, you might need someone to help you, but most of us won't speak up. In fact, we'll probably get very critical of ourselves. That's where the fixing comes in. And we will try and dismiss our own needs because we've been taught to, because we've been taught we're a burden, because we've been taught that we're not supposed to have any needs. We've been taught that the narcissist needs come first. So we don't even recognise our own needs, right? When we don't recognise our own needs and our own wants, right, we don't put boundaries in. Because the relationship is always about how malleable we are rather than how true to ourselves we are. So we can't form real intimacy there or happiness and fulfillment, right? So becoming aware of our wants and needs means stop judging them and just the more you come into your body, the more you'll actually feel that more. You know, a lot of us after these cycles don't know we don't go to the bathroom when we need to. We find out, I used to not know I needed the toilet until I was desperate to go. Why? Because I was so out of touch with my body. I didn't even know that I'd probably been needing to go for a while. And I'd end up running to the bathroom because I was so disassociated. Basic things that other people get to say, like, you know, can I have more sauce on my pizza? Or, you know, that sounds silly, but honestly, like I've been there where I was scared to ask for anything because I just thought I didn't matter, and I pretty much, my wants and needs didn't exist, which are the two subconscious programs I teach you about that the narcissist implants in you. So we don't see them as needs, we don't see them as important. In fact, we see them as things that we must kind of push down. Right? So this relationship with ourselves, because remember what I teach you all the time, guys, all narcissistic abuse is an erosion of your relationship with yourself. It's an erosion of yourself and soul. And so, like, we have to start with our relationship with ourselves. The beginning of Sovereign is exercises to give you to release trauma immediately. And so, because most of us are just so bunged up, it's why we can't feel as well. Trauma just basically clogs our system. So in the end, we've tried to suppress everything, hold it all in, and the body hasn't processed it. So most of us are just so bunged up and numb, right, after these cycles, which is why the introduction to Sovereign is all processing trauma. But after that, it's the first part of it is self-focused and self-partnered, right? Teaching us that. Yeah, because until you do that, you don't know what boundaries to set. You don't know who you are. So just be aware of what I've talked about and understand that you just make the intention not to self-abandon, and know that there are tools we have to learn. Like, you know, we're not aware of how much we've been trained out of it. Yeah, look at how quickly you judge when you have a feeling like of what you want and need as being, do you judge your dreams or your desires as over the top? I do that all the time still because I was trained into it, you know. So I took the bare minimum. I took abuse. I took scraps. I took breadcrumbs. I allowed conditions in my life to be terrible for me, right? Because I didn't think I had the right. Yeah, and I thought like the basic things that people expect from life, I thought was too much for me on a very subconscious level, and I didn't need it, right? That would be the thing. I'm strong enough. I don't need it. I don't mind. I can take it. All those stories, all those programs that I'd used to defend my sort of situation. I'm strong enough. I don't need it. I don't mind. I don't mind. Have you said that to people when they say, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't mind. If you don't know what you want and need, right, there's some work to do, right? Because you're not in touch with yourself. So the first thing is come into your body like I talked about and be aware of your needs. Stop trying to fix them and fix your emotions. Honor them. Honoring emotions means that you don't get stuck in them. You allow yourself to process them, but you don't put thinking on feelings. You allow the feelings to process. You look afterwards at the message and you don't see them as an inconvenience, a burden, something wrong with you. You actually work primarily, right, on your relationship with yourself, because your relationship with yourself, the quality of that is going to impact the quality of your relationships with other people and the world, right? The stronger our relationship with ourselves, the better manifestors we are of what we want, right? The narcissist disconnects that because that you're easier to trap that way. Yeah, you're just a battery source for them. So any more comments and questions, let me know. Lots of love, guys. Thank you for your support and thank you for your comments and questions. I really appreciate them. Lots of love. I'll speak to you soon.